On Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023, Jenkins LTS 2.414, that's 414 to you and me, .1 was released. On today's show, we're going to be talking about all the updates in this release. Now, if you've never been here before, my name is Darren Pope. I'm a developer advocate at CloudBees. And also today, towards the end of the show, we're going to be talking about DevOps World, so be sure to hang around till the end. Also on today's show, I have my normal compatriot that helps move the show along. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks for letting me be here.
Mark is one of the members of the Jenkins board, and we have been doing this. I need to go back and look at the history. We've been doing this a couple of years now.
It's been a while. Yeah, thanks very much.
So, 24141. There. Unlike
Well done.
what was the number that we ran into a while back to where everything kept on repeating itself?
I think it was in the, I don't even remember now.
It was before 401, I think.
Right.
So,
2.332 certainly had some problems, right? Because there are a lot of twos and threes in that one.
yeah. So fortunately we're out of the threes now. We're well into the fours.
Right.
Almost doesn't seem possible, by the way. 414.
Yeah.
In case people don't understand how the whole Jenkins process works, let's, at least before you get into your normal thing, 414 weeks, plus or minus,
Correct.
of the 2x line. That's where the
That's correct.
414 comes from.
That's right. Jenkins releases about once a week. And that once a week means 414 plus or minus a few weeks ago is when the 2.x line started. So 400 weeks is a lot of weeks.
A lot of weeks.
Let's see, 52 weeks in a year, so we're talking 4+ years. That's really cool. No,
it's
8+ years,
8+
is that
years.
right? 8+ years, yeah.
This is what happens when you try to do math live.
Right.
Don't-
We've been doing this for a while, and it's great.
Great. Now, you were talking about the weeklies, but let's talk about what's Jenkins LTS.
Yeah. So the Jenkins long-term support release is a release that's selected once every 12 weeks from a baseline of the weeklies. So we choose a baseline that looks stable, that has good feedback from users on the users page. We get lots of hints that tell us this is an okay release. We select that baseline, then we backport those changes which have come after the fact into it to assure that it's stable, and release it as .1. So 2.414.1 is the baseline for the next 12 weeks of releases. We released .1 yesterday. 4 weeks from now, we'll release .2. 4 weeks from that, we'll release .3. And sometimes when security surprises or other things happen, we might release a .4.
Okay. So with that in mind, before we get into it, Paul, welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us live today. We appreciate that. Andreas, best time for new LTS. Well, the best time for an LTS is when you're on vacation, so you don't have to deal with it.
Now, wait a second. The best time for an LTS is when you're at your desk ready to take it on. Okay, Darren.
Okay. Micha, good to see you as well. Let's just get into it because this is going to be a little bit longer today. Let me add it in here. The release today, again, 414. If you never downloaded before, jenkins.io, go to the download link. It's usually in the upper right-hand corner. Depends on how your browser is sized. Then we're looking at the stable, the LTS side, and then we're going to click on changelog. So this is what we're going to be working from today. And you know what? I haven't even looked at the upgrade notes yet.
We
That's
should
good.
talk about the upgrade guide because there's some important points that are worth the upgrade guide. But let's go through the features first.
Let's do that. Now, before we get into it, 16 sunshinies and 1 not so great.
Yep.
And zeros in the middle. I think it's one of the first times I've ever seen a 0 in the middle.
Yeah.
At this point.
It depends on user feedback, right? We're one day into the cycle. I haven't seen anything in the actual issue tracker that would hint what that one cloud is for. So we'll see.
Okay. Do you want to start in the notable changes or do you want to start in the 414?
I'd say let's go with notable changes first. I think let's start with the sort of big block items that have happened in the 12 plus releases since weekly 401.
Okay. So the number one here, again, purple, in case you don't know what the legend is, at the very top of the page, there's a legend that goes through major enhancements. So those are basically purple. I'm going to call it purple. I know it's not purple, but come on, give me a break. These are red. I know that's not red also, but again, okay. And then security fixes. So the top one, actually the top three are all enhancements. The top one is various UI elements, making some changes, modernizing forms. This has been an ongoing thing for years.
It has, and we're very, very grateful to the many user experience contributors, to Jan Faracek, to Marcus Venter, to Tim Jacome, to several others who have been willing to do UI improvements and keep them compatible, keep them growing and developing. So yeah, very, very grateful for their work. And you can see it. You look at the list of pull requests that are involved in that UI elements improvement. It's an amazing piece of work.
We need to go and grab some screenshots from the 2 dot, whatever the initial 2 dot was. I don't even remember the number anymore. It wasn't
Right.
2.1, by the way. It was a 2-digit number, I think, for the first official release. But just to compare, just so you can appreciate the changes just in the 2x line. I'm not even going to talk about 1x.
Right.
That is way in the past. Update to the UI and function of log recorder.
Yeah, okay, this is a fun one because log recorder is a place where I would really like users and particularly Jenkins administrators to be more aware of this capability. I think many of them aren't aware that the capability exists and how it could help them. And the improvements that have been done to the log recorder are a nice addition.
Do you want to take a look at them?
Let's take a look at them.
Okay. So before we get into that, before you can even go into Jenkins, hopefully you see a sign-in screen. Hopefully you just don't have your Jenkins server running completely open, no authentication. If you do, we need to have a different talk. That's not what we're going to do today. This is the old one. So this is 2.401.3. So this is the previous LTS. If we take a look at the new 414, we now have a new login screen. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Exactly. Yep.
We'll leave it at that. So I'm going to go ahead and log in on both of these so we can compare log recorders. Admin, and of course my password is admin as well. That just works out. So what I have is the same jobs set up on both of the controllers. Log recorder is the one we're going to use right now. If we take a look at it, just so you can see it, there's nothing really hiding under the hood. We're just doing a git checkout for the Git plugin. Why do we do Git plugin? Because Mark is the maintainer of the Git plugin.
Right, because it's a URL I can remember.
And it's fairly short compared to some others.
Right.
Okay, so the other job looks exactly like this. So let's go back over to here, and let's look at log recorder and how you would typically set it up. So manage Jenkins. You go down to...
System log.
I've got it resized, so I can't find it.
Right, exactly. Right-hand side.
Yes.
Right-hand side, about a page down.
Yep. So here, I actually already had it set up. I called it QQQ. Not a very good idea. Gear on the left. If I click into it, I can go to configuration and give it a name. We didn't have any loggers. Let's add a logger. Let's add the Hudson
.plugins.
.git. And I think
Git SCM. Right,
Yep.
exactly.
Okay, and we'll leave the log level all. Now, this is the key part, I think, Mark, that people just don't know about this.
Right. First thing is simple knowledge of the fact, oh, this facility exists. The crucial thing here is many plugins and Jenkins Core itself have the ability to do additional logging that is not written to the build log. Additional logging that could help you under specific circumstances to diagnose something that's a problem. And that specific logging means you need to look at the source code, so it's not trivial, but that logging can be quite a help if you're investigating a specific problem.
And of course, you never have any problems with the Git plugin. People will
No,
never
that,
have an
of
issue.
course, that plugin is flawless, but every other plugin might have this. Right.
Let's click on save. Let's go back over to the job and just run the log recorder job, because I actually never even ran it on this machine. So I'll click on build now. And it'll go off and do its little clone, and hopefully everything's still connected. Yes, the demo is working. It's always a good thing, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. It doesn't mean it runs fast, but it's running. Okay, now it's done. All right, so we see our job. If we take a look at the output of the job, we see some things here.
Right.
Great.
It did the thing we expected. It cloned onto your machine a copy of the Jenkins Git plugin. You've got it now locally in an agent somewhere.
So now if I go back over to system log, if we were to take a look at all Jenkins logs, this is a variation of the, it's not a complete build log. Like if you were to take a look at the system log of Jenkins, which is what this is, it sort of is.
Well, the system log is telling you system-related things, right? And
Yeah.
so it does, and it's of necessity relatively high level, because if it gets too low level, it wastes an awful lot of time doing logging.
Right.
So we have to be careful that we don't make the logging too heavy, because it could get in the way of getting work done.
So now take a look at this QQQ logger I set up. We just see this one-liner, not adding git tag action. Doesn't really matter.
But the crucial thing is that message never appeared in the build log.
Correct.
Right? It's only available through this facility, and it's added there in case there were some problems related to this particular thing. So the real answer is it's there just in case, but it's kept hidden from the users so they don't have to be distracted by it.
Right. And the key part to this is this one is a fine setting.
Right.
So it's really, really granular. Don't run your logs at fine.
Correct. Certainly, you do not want to stay at the fine logging level for any extended period of time. You will get a lot of data.
Okay. Probably. I'll put it that way.
Depends
Depends on
the
who
plugin.
wrote the logger, right?
Exactly. Depends on the plugin.
All right. So let's go and look at the new way that this is happening. Still go to the same place, system log. I've already defined the QQQ. We've already ran the job. Notice one thing. This is now full screen.
Right.
Right? So the left nav is completely gone. If we were to compare here, right? So these are similar.
So now the controls that are on the left are now up in the top right.
Right. They are up here. Well, you can't see my mouse, but anyway, they're in the upper right-hand corner.
Correct.
Notice that the gear for QQQ moved from the left to the right.
Right.
Now let's go take a look at QQQ. And again, the font changed a little bit. It's a little bit clearer to read.
It did.
Actually, it's a lot clearer to read.
Right. And it's more consistent with the rest of Jenkins. So one of the benefits as the UI, as the UX work is happening, is consistency is increasing. We like that.
Yep. Now I could clear the log. I could configure the log. All of this is fairly normal, sort of what you would expect.
Right.
But there's one more thing, which is actually one of the other items on the list. I'm going to go ahead and jump to that since we're here.
Great.
Use dialogues to delete computers, views, clouds, users, and log recorders instead of dedicated pages.
Right.
So, old way. Take a look at the old way. If I want to delete QQQ, I'll click on delete. It takes me to a new page.
Right.
I click yes, and then I'm back. Change here is now I can go under the ellipsis and I can click on delete log recorder. Watch what happens. Let's see if it actually shows up on the screen or not. Yeah, it does.
It does. Good.
Good. Well, because of how I'm sharing, I wasn't sure if it was going to show or not.
Got it.
Okay. Notice we didn't go to a new page. We just have this dialog box.
Right, the dialogue from the browser. And now the cool secret here is that this is preparation for the next LTS, where instead of being a browser dialog, it will be a modal dialog inside without navigating to a new page. I confirmed with 2.420, a weekly, that the next transition, the next LTS, will give this even better.
Got it. So I'll click on OK, and then we're just back to what we have.
Yep. And the cool thing about that delete dialog is that delete dialog has become more consistent everywhere. This is thanks to the work of Marcus Winter. And Marcus went through, and we had a mix of delete by going to a separate page, delete with a dialog, delete this other way. He's gone through and done a nice job of unifying things to use a consistent pattern of present the delete dialog. Step 1 was use the browser's modal. Step 2 in the next LTS will be use in page nice rounded corner, very pretty dialogue.
So that'll be in the next cycle in 12 weeks.
12 weeks, right?
Got it. Okay. Next up, what do we want to talk about? Allow canceling of quiet mode of a safe restart with an optional message. How do we want to show this?
Oh, I like this one. Just go do a safe restart on each, because I think
Okay.
it's really cool. So when you append the safe restart to the end of your your URL, okay, this
is old.
the old way, right? Old
Yep.
way. Now,
Let's go look at the new way. Restart.
notice. Now, one of the motivations here is go back to, when we go back to the old way, you're going to see a somewhat terrifying. Click the yes button and let's watch what happens to Jenkins. Okay, big red. You should. Well, what? Jenkins is going to shut down. Actually, this is not that scary. Jenkins shutting down is not a big deal, particularly with pipelines and pipeline durability. So a little bit more fear is engendered by this than is actually needed. So now let's do the same thing with the new Jenkins.
Okay.
But let's
Also,
put in a message. Yes, 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 yes.
time for lunch.
Right. Okay, notice much less glaring. It's not that bright, vivid red, and the message is included.
Right. Instead of it just being just
Right.
a general
Jenkins
message.
is going to shut down. Exactly.
Yeah. Because it may not be shutting down.
Right. It's
Shutting down.
Right. The real message is it's going to restart, right? Usually that's so the time for lunch message is more likely to convey what's actually happening, because even telling the user we're going to restart doesn't say why. Whereas this now gives the administrator a chance to say, here's why I'm restarting this.
Okay. So let's undo. Oh, I guess it already did. There we go, because I did a safe restart. Duh. That one go in, and we'll come back over here, which we should be back now. Yep. Okay. So that's safe restart.
Right.
Let's see. Prefix the name of live elements or name of input elements of list view to prevent form submission. That just feels like a lot of words.
Well, and to give you what the lot of words that are hiding there, this one would lead us to the upgrade guide. I can give you, if you're okay with skipping it for now,
We'll skip it
let's
for
talk
now.
when we get to the upgrade guide.
Yep. We did use dialogues. We already showed
Right.
that for log recorders. Expect
did.
the same experience with users, clouds, views, and computers.
Right?
All easy. Some CSP compatibility stuff. Welcome to browsers.
Well, and welcome to a project that started, 15 or 18 months
A
ago.
long time ago, yeah.
And has been making steady progress thanks to the security team's willingness to just keep working at it. The day will come when content security policy will be enabled, because we will have separated the JavaScript out of all the jelly files into their own separate JS files. Yep. That day's coming. We're very grateful for them. That's likely a Hacktoberfest topic, and maybe a Hacktoberfest topic for multiple years.
I hope not multiple years. Upgrade Windstone. That's usually internal. You don't really care. Just know that Windstone is effectively Jetty, because Jetty's on the inside of Windstone,
Right?
and Windstone is on the inside of Jenkins.
Correct.
So that's typically how you would run it anyway. So some extra things there. Update to sign-on page for desktop and mobile. Remove the animations. In fact, the animations were in the weeklies. Because I remember
Correct.
seeing
So-
one that was spinny and
Right, and I actually liked the spinny thing. I thought it was
Yeah.
really cool, but we had some users whose particular browsers would consume massive amounts of CPU while doing the spinning thing, and said, look, we don't need that. Our login page doesn't have to occupy processor time on your computer.
Yep. Update to builds widget UI. Okay, that's fine, no big deal. Rework cloud managements into multiple pages. So let's go take a look at this.
Yeah.
And we're going to specifically look at EC2 plugin. Now, the reason why this is called out here is because if you're not running 207 for EC2 plugin, you've got to upgrade to 207.
Right. Now,
You just got to.
you had noted in a previous conversation that 2.07 has been out for a while. So we
Yes.
hope you've already upgraded to it. But if you have not upgraded to it, now is the time to be sure if you're using the EC2 plugin, use the current release.
Correct. So let's take a look at what this is. So typically to get to nodes and clouds, the way I do it is build executor status, which takes me right to my page. And then I have a clouds, or I have node monitoring. If I click on clouds, I've actually already set this up to where I've got an EC2 thing set up. I have my key, I have my private key pair. If I test the connection, everything's good. Just, okay, it's there, right? No big deal. But now, here's the difference. And it's a quality of life thing, because after I did it yesterday, I was like, oh, this is really nice. Build executor status. Okay, let's sort of go one by one here, just because I want to leave the page. So build executor status. Again, notice it's subtle, but there's now nodes and clouds are broken apart. And nodes is just the local nodes, the statics, if you will. If I click on clouds, gee, this looks familiar, doesn't it?
Looks like the initial entry into Jenkins. Has that feeling, doesn't it?
Correct. So if I say new cloud, again, sort of a wizard-like experience. I'm going to say that. Doesn't really matter right now. Create. I've got credentials. I've got my region waking up because the way I have my region set up. Oh, come on. That's always fun. That's fine. I'll just go with that. And if I click on test connection, we'll see if it works. Yep, great. So I'll click on save. Now it's a list. Now if I want to edit it, I go back over here. Oh, that's interesting. There's only one on here. Whereas if I look at clouds here, I am going to have the slidey, reordery thing that's just like, please.
Very, very long.
It could be very, very long. And that's
Right.
the key part. Now, the thing that's going to be long, if you will, is going to be the list of clouds.
Right.
And then you can go to a detail. So this is a great parent-child relationship instead of having a list of items scrolling.
Right. Now people may ask, hey, why do multiple clouds? But we actually see multiple clouds very frequently, right? Where somebody may say, I need to use EC2, and I also need this Kubernetes thing, and I also need this other thing. They may still be inside the same single cloud provider and yet doing multiple clouds on Jenkins.
Well, the key part here is they may be in different regions and have different credentials for different regions.
Right.
And those are the reasons why you would set this up. So for a quality of life, if I don't have to scroll, actually this is the new one. If I'm not having to scroll 16, 18, 20 of these here, now I'm looking at a list of clouds. Much, much better.
Yep.
Much, much better. So that's clouds management. I'm guessing you did the Japanese translation.
No, I did not, but thanks for checking. I could do the Italian badly, but I no.
Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else that we wanted to call out? Oh, prototype. Okay. Before we get to prototype, so there's just some other things what I will classify as quality of life changes here. If you've been a Java developer for any amount of time and you haven't dealt with the whole Jakarta inject or just the Jakarta changes period, count yourself blessed.
Well, for me that's a fascinating story, right? Because Java had this thing called EE, the enterprise stuff, right? And they correctly observed that's way too much for what we want. They have now moved that to Jakarta under Eclipse, but it meant a wholesale rename of packages, and there's a bunch hiding behind that thing.
Yes, a bunch. We'll just leave it at that.
Right.
Let's see. There was a change. Yeah, before we get to prototype, because I want to save that one. I think I'm looking at our list too to make sure we're still okay. Yeah, we've covered all the big ones. We've talked about quality of life. Here's one for me that has not been a quality of life.
Okay.
So let's go to the plugins page. Oh, good. We've got a couple available too. That's even better. So this isn't a big deal until you start looking closer. What's the difference? For how many, near 2 decades now, the buttons have been here at the bottom,
Right.
and now they're up here at the upper right-hand corner?
And when the list is long, like it is in a number of cases,
Oh, right.
where do you want those buttons to be?
In the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah. So, but now I admit, muscle memory says for those of us, particularly with years of Jenkins experience, what do you mean I don't have to scroll to the bottom? I scrolled to the bottom already. It's a natural motion for me. I'm fixated, but the reality is it's much better in the top right-hand corner.
One other very small thing that you may be missing is this updates number, which it's sort of hard to see there. You see updates
right.
2, whereas there's no indication. I mean, it's easy because we only see 2 in this one. So a little bit of a cheat there. You can hover it. I think you can see the hover there.
Can.
So I can update them. Well, here, what would I do? I would do this. And then, like if I'm used to check now, right, this is the circle arrow thing does not translate still to me, even though I've seen it now in weeklies for a long time, to check
Right.
now.
Right.
It just
Right.
doesn't click.
The word and there's a price to be paid there, right? Iconography means I've got to learn the meaning of the icon, and that's a price we pay. You're right.
Yep. But notice here when I check and uncheck, again, not a big deal, but you know, if I don't check it, the button's not live. Whereas over here, the button's always live,
Right.
no matter what. So that's that one. Oh wait, that also applies to available's different as well. Correct. So if we take a look at available, again, it's sort of funny. Here you could scroll, but the buttons were pinned to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But yet over on update, they were never pinned on the bottom.
Right. Right. So which is again wow, do we want to fight with, and I'm sure there have been battles to try to keep those things at the bottom in all screen resolutions and on all browsers.
No. It's the right decision. It's just my fingers aren't there yet.
Muscle memory has to be taught, right?
It's
It
a
has to be
real thing.
developed.
Yep. So if I wanted to install, let's say, is he still in the list? Let's see.
I think
Chuck.
you should. Chuck is certainly still. I was going to suggest lockable resources, but
Oh,
Chuck is
lockable,
an
okay.
excellent choice.
Lockable. Okay, lockable. So I could do this, and notice the difference with install now. I've got an arrow, and I can install or install after restart.
Right.
By the way, hint, install after restart should be the only option there.
Oh, now come on. I like install, but you're right. Almost all of us always restart immediately after an install.
So again, unless you check it, it's not live, right? That's sort of the key part there. And also the refresh. Now this is the other, check now has always been at the bottom. I don't think installed really changed. Well, obviously it changed, but not to the extent that the others did. There's just a little bit of layout changes there.
Right.
But this one is because there is no check. Now, to be consistent, in my opinion, since we're doing this live and you can yell at me later.
Sure.
Because you won't yell at me now. We probably should have the check now button here too.
Oh, interesting idea. Yeah.
I'm not completely sold on it.
Yeah,
but
it's an interesting idea.
Because it's never been there before.
Right.
Or has it?
I don't remember. Is check now at the bottom? I
Nope,
don't think
it's not.
ever been there, right?
Nope. I'd say that's like backlog item from maybe 2090, 2100, somewhere in there. That would be okay. That's fine. So if you're going to the plugin pages and you're going, what is going on? This is what's going on. That's mine. Okay. Let's go back to the log and let's talk about this whole prototype thing. Because you were talking about earlier with security working on CSP compatibility. Mm-hmm. Prototype is, how can we say, going away?
Yes, that's the word we should use. In fact, that's the phrase, going away. And I like that. So Prototype.js is a JavaScript library that was included in Jenkins over 10 years ago. It's an over 10-year-old library. It makes fundamental changes to how JavaScript executes, and those fundamental changes are disruptive enough that they would block us from using certain other JavaScript libraries. Now, in the world of JavaScript, 10-year-old libraries, and the last release was 10 plus years ago. 10-year-old libraries are like 3 and 4 generations beyond ancient. 18-month-old libraries are really old in JavaScript, and so 10 years is beyond old. We really wanted to get rid of it, but it was used everywhere. Jenkins Core, many Jenkins plugins. Thankfully, Tim Jacome started a project to remove Prototype.js, and Basil Crow stepped in, and the two of them together have been through the process of revising and shepherding and encouraging others to revise something over 200 plugins. It's an amazing effort.
So what does this really mean?
Well,
especially this thing, add a user experimental flag.
Yeah, let's go look at it. I think we owe it to people to see it. We hope they're never going to detect it, but I think it's worth showing what this facility gives. Thanks to Wodek Follonier, for our security officer, for creating the facility originally. So when you go to user and configure, down towards the bottom, we'll find an entry that says experiments. And the feature flag in this case says remove Prototype.js. So what this says is, when I enable that feature flag, for me as a user, it will be as though Prototype were unavailable, so that any plugins that use it, maybe you've got a proprietary plugin that uses it, maybe you've got some old Jenkins plugin that you haven't updated yet that's using it. This can help you find those kind of things and figure out how to fix them.
The way you do the value, it's just a drop down. So by default, it's disabled. So it comes in, it's as it, Prototype at that point is still on. This is sort of a double negative, headed towards a triple negative, to understand what it's really doing. So remove Prototype, yes or no. Maybe we should just say yes and no. I don't know. It would depend on how the flag is named. But anyway.
Right.
So I'd already turned it on and enabled. So this controller has been running with Prototype.js effectively turned off.
Removed, right.
Removed.
Exactly.
And by when I say turn off, do you remember what the plumbing is for this? Is it just taken out, not injected into?
No. I think because it's per user, I think it has to be available, but not being executed. Now, I'd have to double check with the implementers to be sure, but I think it's that it's available but not executed. Let's
get Ari's question here. It'd be nice if the left side plugin menu would be docked, so scrolling Windows Z. Yes. Let me put that up so anybody else watching this can go ahead and open up an issue, and we'll see what it looks like. So here, let's get it to where it's a little bit longer, to where that would stop. That would be nice. Does that make sense to you, Mark?
I'm still trying to understand.
So basically, the left nav here, if the left nav is going to persist, which in this case it probably will in some way, shape, or form, that it doesn't go off screen.
I see what you're saying. Okay, good.
Because now I have to scroll back up to get
to get to the left navigation.
Yeah, or I just click on plugins in the breadcrumb. Right. There's ways to get there, but it would be nice for those to not leave the screen.
Good suggestion. I see.
Good. Thanks, Ari. Okay, so we did Prototype. I think we've covered all the major new items. Oh, there was also this one little fix update center proxy configuration hyperlink. Do you want to explain that one? Do you remember that one?
It's just when there's a proxy configuration error, there was a hyperlink that went to the wrong place. And most of us don't use proxies. I'm a firm believer that proxies are for the most part evil. Reverse proxies are great, but proxies between me
Outbound
and the
proxies.
internet are really disruptive. And so this one, most people won't see it. But
correct.
It's just, it is a correct change, a valid change.
Okay, so let's explain the changes since 4.14. What does this mean? So since this is 4.14.1, we've had, what is the weekly right now?
420.
We have this thing called the internet. So 420 is the current shipping weekly.
That's right.
So that means there's been 6 weeks of changes. Is that the right math?
That's correct.
So. Okay. Yeah. Well, I knew. Okay, never mind. So that means these items have happened in 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, or 20.
And then been backported.
And then backported to now, which is 4.14.1.
That's right.
This first one, we had a conversation about this yesterday. We had a conversation again about it right before we started to where it finally clicked. explain this? Because it's like, why are we talking about a July at the end of August that was
Right. So what happened was 2.401.3 included a security fix, and that was the security fix that's noted in the July 26 security advisory. That security fix applied to 2.401.3, but it was also applied to a weekly that happened after 2.414. So in order to not have users of 2.414.1 affected by it, we had to backport it from the weekly, and I don't remember if it was 418, 417, which one it was, but it had to be backported. And because it was backported, we note it here in the changelog that there was a backport. That's why it's in this top section.
okay. Again, nothing. There's not a new security advisor right
No.
now. This is just
No, it is not.
reinforcing.
Right.
It came after 414.
It's about a month old, this security advisory. So if you're current with Jenkins LTSs, you've already seen this security fix, and it's already running on your 2.401.3.
Correct. Some more CSP things.
Yeah, and this CSP one is a reminder that it's really hard to get this stuff right. This is one we've had for a long time, and users found, oh, hey, here's this case where it doesn't behave the way we expect, and they came in with a proposal. This is a better way to do it. The security team reviewed it, merged it, and we felt it was valuable enough to backport.
Good. I'm going to skip the Debian real quick. Add last build status to job page.
Yeah, and this one I'm going to have to do some more show and tell. I'm not ready to show this one yet.
Okay. And then only disable install button if no plugins are selected, which is actually what we just saw.
Right, exactly.
Because initially, during one of the weeklies, install was always hot.
Correct.
And then now it's not. Okay. Update Debian images to version 12. What are we doing?
Yeah, so Debian released a new version. So Debian 11 was released 2 or 3 years ago. Debian 12 released back in May or June, and Debian 12 is their new standard. It's got the most current versions of utilities, the most current versions of libraries like OpenSSH, and so we wanted to be sure it was there. So Debian 12 is now used as the baseline for our Docker containers that were previously based on Debian 11 Bullseye.
So all container images now are from Debian 12. If you
All of
ballpark.
the controller container images that were previously using Debian 11 are now using Debian 12. Now, we have container images that use Alpine. We have container images that use UBI. We have even one container image that uses Alma Linux. So it's not every container, but the Debian-based containers all switched from 11 to 12. Now, we would expect that doesn't cause a compatibility hit, but there might have been people who made the mistake of depending on specific versions of utilities that have changed between Debian 11 and 12. So if you detect that kind of a dependency, you ought to find out why and fix it.
If you are not just replacing the container images, and you're instead going into an image and upgrading things within the image.
Oh, no, don't do that. Yes, that's
You're
a
doing it
terrible
wrong.
thing to do. Definitely don't go inside containers and change their contents. No, you're right. That's a very bad choice.
I've seen that done too many times.
Right.
So-
And that's a good reminder. Please, the same rule, don't use upgrade the WAR file if you installed with a Linux package manager. Please use the Linux package manager to do the upgrade so that all the upgrade steps are handled.
Correct. Because there are things pre and post that happen.
There are, right?
Or can happen. I'll put it that way. And most of the time do happen. Okay. We were talking about the upgrade guide.
Yeah, let's go
I
there.
think we
And
probably should take a look at the upgrade guide.
after the upgrade guide, I've got one more topic to be sure we touch on before we get to DevOps World.
Got it. Okay, so 414.1, let's see. Oh dear. This is long. Okay. Do we just start at the top? Let's start at the top.
We do, and it's actually fairly simple because the first thing is top item, input name, prefix added. The real story there is when you do an LTS upgrade your plugins. It's important that you upgrade your plugins because that new LTS may actually, in the case of these 3 plugins, the two specifically that are noted first, you need to be sure you're running those versions on this LTS. Otherwise, they will show problems to you. So you've got to, if you're running categorized view or build monitor view, be sure you're using the most recent release.
Okay.
Now, if you're using calendar view, I have to warn you, if it's critical to you, you may have to delay your upgrade because there's no fix for calendar view yet for this particular condition.
Got it. Okay. Remove dependency on Jenkins JS modules. Boy, that sounds old.
Yes, and you know it, it's old. And again, what's the story here? Be sure you're running the latest versions of your plugins. In this case, OWASP Dependency Track and ServiceNow CI/CD. Be sure you're running latest versions when you upgrade to this version of LTS.
Okay. And they're both obviously patched, showing here. So good. I'm going to call it patched. It's close enough.
Right.
Sign-in page update.
Yeah, so this one is a warning that if you're using the login theme plugin, you may need to, and you're critically dependent on it, you may need to delay your upgrade until 2.414.2.
That makes sense. Not that the sign-in page changed at all.
Right.
Okay. Global build stats plugin.
And Global Build Stats had a prototype JS thing that the original changes that did prototype JS caused it to be disrupted. Thankfully, the Global Build Stats plugin maintainer has adapted to that. This most recent release resolves it. Now, Global Build Stats still has an open security advisory. And because it still has an open security advisory, I can't recommend strongly, oh, you should install this. Rather, if you're already using it, you've probably already accepted that the security risk is not affecting you. If so, then upgrade to the most recent version.
Okay, you said you had one other item that you wanted to call out.
Yeah, Java 21 is available in preview for those people who are using containers. 2.414.1's containers now has Java 21. And with Java 21, you can help explore. Now, it's just beta. Java 21 itself won't release until September 19th of 2023. So we're about a month away from the release of Java 21. But we're encouraged by how well Jenkins is running on Java 21. When Java 17 came out, it took us months before we could support it with Jenkins. With Java 21, we hope that we'll have it ready in a matter of weeks after the official release.
Okay. So let's go over and talk about a couple of quick things. I mentioned DevOps World at the top. This is coming up. Again, both Mark and myself work for CloudBees. And in the past years, DevOps World has been in one place with, everybody shows up in one place, whether that was San Francisco. We tried to do Vegas, then this thing happened in 2020 that nobody talks about anymore. Last year was interesting because it was going to be in Orlando. And there was a hurricane. So it got canceled last second. So this year, I'm going to 5 cities. 5, count them 5. New York City area, it's actually Jersey City. I can say that, it's Jersey City. Chicago, somewhere in Chicago, I'm not sure exactly where. Silicon Valley, that's actually in Santa Clara.
Right.
Singapore, and then London. Now, the dates for the top 3, all the US dates, all locked in. Still, these are pretty much locked in, but we're still waiting to finalize some stuff. But it should be close to these dates. We'll just leave it at that. So it's a 1-day, 1-track event. So come in. And in fact, if you're going to any of these in the US, you will see Mark live and in the flesh.
Right. Well,
because Mark will be there.
I'll be talking. They've accepted my talk proposal on benefit your business by contributing to open source. And we're planning right now, the tentative is that we'll do an evening event for Jenkins users and Jenkins contributors to come gather, and we'll sit together and talk. And we're going to do a fun session together. We'll have some snacks or something like that available. So after the conference that evening, we look forward to having good conversations with Jenkins users. It's a great chance to interact. So either New York or Chicago or Santa Clara, would love to see you there.
Now, we're still going to have Jenkins coverage, if you will, in both Singapore and London. as well, but Mark won't be doing those dates.
Right. Actually, in Singapore, we're really proud. An Apache software contributor who is also a Jenkins contributor, Olivier Lamy, will be speaking. And in London, Tim Jacombe, our release officer, will be speaking. So we've got really strong Jenkins voices at each one of these conferences.
And I think we've got one more thing we want to talk about today. So again, DevOps World, you can click on register now and then go through the process, decide which city. Obviously, if you want to go to Singapore, probably need to talk to your boss if you're living in Iowa, because that'll probably cost a little bit of money. But check on your registrations for that. Again, a one-day event. Now, let me call it out here real quick. You'll notice that New York and Silicon Valley have 2 dates, and that's true, because the day one of those events are workshop days.
Right.
The second day is actually the event that would be in alignment with the single day events in London, Singapore, and Chicago. Okay, so that covers that. One more thing. Just announced today from the CDF, Jenkins is part of the Continuous Delivery Foundation. It is one of the graduated, in fact, the first graduated project from the CDF.
Correct.
I can't remember. Everybody else has graduated now at this point too.
No, just Tecton.
No?
I think they've only got
just
two or
Tecton.
three.
Okay.
2 or 3 projects have graduated. I know Tecton has graduated. I don't recall if there are others. So,
Yeah.
so graduation is a big deal.
And we apologize to the other projects because I'm not looking at those every day like I am this.
Right.
Anyway, the 2024 State of DevOps Report survey is now open. So if you've not taken this in the past, you should, because it's great information, not just for the community, but for broader. This report is one of the biggest reports to come out each year. So take some time, go take the survey, and help out the community. That'd be a very, very useful thing. Okay. DevOps World, survey, all the changelog, upgrade notes. What are we missing? That feels like it's it.
I think we've done it.
Okay. So we should be back in 4 weeks. Wait, is that true?
Well, let's check. Yeah, 4
Do
weeks is
the
right.
math.
But let's double check to be sure that, yeah, in fact,
You're not
I
traveling
remember
that week?
That's not, that is, 4 weeks will be
What is the date on that one?
the 21st of September.
21st.
Is that right? Because the 20th is release date. Yeah, so the 21st. Not a travel, not a
travel.
conference collision. 21st of September, we're back doing the same thing for .2.
.2. Okay. So to everybody that was here with us live, thanks a lot. If you don't mind, if you are here with us live, leave a thumbs up before you leave. Do the YouTube thing. It makes our lives. It makes some manager happy. Oh wait, Mark's managing me right at the moment, so that's. I don't know. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again in roughly, maybe exactly. Who knows? We'll figure it out. We'll be there. Thanks everybody, and we will talk to you again soon.